What's up with y'all boys, man? I'm so excited to be back. Finally making the hoops videos I love to make. The Olympics were a couple months ago, so it's been a minute since I actually hopped on here and really had something to talk about. But you know, NBA season coming up. I definitely have some videos. Now I'm getting ready for y'all, getting ready to post. Today, as y'all saw, y'all probably read, the title. I got my awards prediction videos today. We're gonna go through MVP, Coach of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, all that good stuff. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna let y'all know what I think, what I see, my picks. Also might talk about a little bit from some of my picks last year, but I'm really excited to get this video done for y'all. As y'all can see, new space in college. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm not working with the tripod and stuff, but we gonna get it done. Get it done how we gotta get it done. So I appreciate y'all tuning in, and if y'all can subscribe, like, share, do all that, you know what I'm saying? Just help me support. I just make these videos for fun, just something to do in my spare time, but just keep it going. If y'all got any video ideas, let me know, but without further ado, let's go ahead and just get into the video. I'm going to start with probably the most entertaining, the one that everybody knows. Obviously, we're going to go to the MVP award, and my pick is the same as my pick last year. I'm going to go Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. This should come as no surprise. Obviously, I think he should have won last year over Nikola Jokic. That's neither here nor there personally. I think that Shai leading his team to the best record, even though technically they tied with the Nuggets or whatever. But, best record in the league. But I think there's, some key things about Shai that, really I like to see from him. First of all, the fact that, the way he plays, he's one of the best players in isolation in the league. He was second in points per game per ISO in the regular season with 6.8 per game, but it jumped up to 11.6 in the playoffs, which is insane. For context, obviously, you guys know that the defense ramps up in the playoffs. So for him to have a 4-point jump, basically, in points per game in ISO situations where teams are not going to try to allow Shai to ISO. He's one of the best ISO players in the league, but his points per game jumped up, and he's efficient. I really loved what I saw in the postseason also from three. He shot 43% from three, which was up from the regular season where he shot 35% from three. And Shai is just really a true, he's a real point guard, and I think you can see the impact, that maybe Chris Paul had on him a little bit from a couple years back. The pace he plays with is so amazing. He's so good at setting his teammates up. He draws so much attention because of the scorer he is and the consistent scorer he is. Obviously, he gets to the line at an extreme rate. He was first in the league in free throws last year. He was fourth in value over replacement. For those of you who don't know, value over replacement is basically just a stat that calculates how many points per 100 possessions better you are than basically a replacement player. And he had 7.1, which is fourth in the league behind, other top guys. But, top 5 in league in value over replacement. He was second in win shares last year with 14.6. Most notably, 10.5 offensive win shares and even 4.2 defensive win shares, where Shai is not necessarily a bad defender. His big frame gives him the ability. He's a very portable defender, very switchable defender, because he can guard so many different positions because he's not small. That's also part of the reason I love his game. I love to watch him play. I love to watch the Thunder play. And I think that the Thunder will actually be the first seed in the West again. And I think with them being the first seed 2 years in a row, him coming in second last year, I think as long as he repeats similar production, I think he should win MVP. Next, I want to talk about my Defensive Player of the Year pick. Obviously, this should come as no surprise. I'm going to pick Victor Wembanyama. Victor, obviously being a unicorn of his height, his length, his basketball instincts, which I think is probably the most impressive part of him, to be that size and to have the creativity and the fluidity that he plays with. It seems like things just come to him, and that's really impressive from a guy that's. They list that 7'3" or 7'4", whatever they want to say he is, but whatever height he is, 7'5", he's huge and he gets his hands on everything. A stat from last year, he led the NBA in stocks, which is just steals and blocks per game, 4.82 per game, which in comparison, I want to compare that to Rudy Gobert, who had 2.67 per game actually. Last year, Wemby, his defensive win shares numbers were kind of insane. He had 4.4 defensive win shares, where you say that's not a lot. Where Gobert had 5.8 defensive win shares, but when you consider that win shares kind of has to do with how good your team is as well. If your team's not winning a lot of games, it's kind of hard to get win shares, or how many wins that you are contributing to your team with your defense. So Wemby's 4.4 defensive win shares is out of 22 games that the Spurs won. That accounts for 20% of the Spurs wins, compared to Gobert, who at 5.8 win shares, that's 10% of the Wolves wins at 5.8 out of 56. So there's almost a 10% difference in the number of wins for, like, relative to how many wins the team is getting, that Wemby is contributing. I also want to take a look at their defensive rating. This is the points per 100 possessions that the team is scoring. For Wemby, when he's on the court, has an 111.2 defensive rating. When he's off the court, the Spurs in general have a 117.3, which just for reference, the Spurs team has 117.3, and the defense gets that much better. Obviously, that's a 6-point difference, but the defense gets 5.3%, 7% better, basically, compared to Gobert, who had, when he was on the court, obviously, I just want to note that the Timberwolves are a great defensive unit, which is another reason I think that helped Gobert win, because his numbers look so great. But I think Wemby should have won last year because his team's defense is not good. Gobert, when he was on the court, had a 106.6 defensive rating. The Timberwolves had a 107.3 defensive rating. They're a top 5 defense in the league. That's only a 0.65% increase. So without Gobert, they are still a really, really good defense. Gobert changes it kind of minusculely when you think about it as compared to Wemby, and the difference they make when they're on the court. In the Western Conference playoffs, we saw that Gobert couldn't really play at the end of the game because they were matchup hunting him. Luka was torching him. They were matchup hunting him. They want him in space. Wemby, on the other hand, he is so fluid. I'm not saying that he can guard Kyrie or guard Luka. Most bigs, there's no bigs in the league that are going to lock them up. But for a possession, he can do good. And I think that says something about him. So I think my pick is Victor Wembanyama. I think he's going to have a great sophomore year. I think he's a candidate for most improved player. And so Wemby, obviously with the addition of Chris Paul, with the talent they got with Stephon Castle and such, I think Wemby is primed for a great year, and I think I have him winning Defensive Player of the Year this year. Next, I have Rookie of the Year. I'm going to take Stephon Castle from the Spurs. Obviously, Castle is a big, strong guard. In my opinion, he kind of reminds me of Drew Holiday. I call him Drew Holiday light. His defensive instincts are insane. Obviously, going to UConn, playing for Dan Hurley, there's a certain caliber, there's a certain effort that they play with. And I think that instilled in Stephon Castle, combined with CP3 being there, I think is going to turn him into a really good player. I think I see a lot of what CP3 did for Shea, and how after CP3 left OKC, like, Shea turned up. Like, I mean, obviously I'm not going to contribute all that to CP3's influence, but CP3 has showed he's a good veteran to have around the point guard. And with a young point guard like Castle, who has that defensive capability, all he really needs is to show offense. And I think Chris Paul will be able to unlock that for him. I think it's beneficial that he doesn't have to handle the ball immediately, that he doesn't have to have the pressure of running an offense immediately, but he does get to use his athleticism, show that he can guard. He has a big frame. I think that he's going to play is the most important part. Like, the Spurs don't really have anything else to play. Obviously, they have Keldon Johnson, Malachi Branham, Jeremy Sohan, like all those guys. But the Spurs were not a good team last year. So they're incentivized to play their rookie, who was a top 5 pick. Remember the name Stephon Castle? I was really high on him in the draft. I'm really high on all the UConn guards. So that's my pick. Next award I'm going to do, I'm going to go to most improved player. And I think a lot of people, I know that a lot of people are high on Jonathan Kuminga. I personally am not. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's going to win that award. I know Evan Mobley is in that mix, but my pick is actually going to be Paolo Banchero. Obviously, it's harder for a good player to win Most Improved, but I think the jump he's going to take this year with the Magic is going to be something that's going to win him this award. Obviously, last year he averaged 22, 7, and 5 in the regular season on decent shooting splits as well. I want to really talk about the postseason, which is the thing that really had me intrigued. Obviously, I'm a Cavs fan, so I watched those games where he was going bananas against us. Went up from 22 to 27. He goes from 22, 7, and 5 to 27, 8 and a half, and 4. And I think that that's something he could do for the entire season. I think if he goes and does that for an entire season, averages somewhere around 26, 27, gets up to about 8 and a half rebounds, keep that assist at 5, I think he's going to win Most Improved Player. I also think that he's going to lead this Magic team to a good record. They will make the playoffs this year in the East. Really impressed with Paolo. Obviously, huge frame, 6'9", 6'10", built strong, real strong. Going to give you problems, matchup problems. He's fluid. As his jump shot continues to progress, I think he'll come back with a more consistent jump shot. As it continues to progress, I think he'll be really good. And honestly, I think Paolo doesn't get talked about enough. When we consider in the sphere of first-round picks, he's been one of the better first-round picks of recent memory. He's turned out really, really well. But, being in a small market, being in Orlando, he doesn't get talked about as much. And I think that the playoff performance he had, obviously they lose to the Cavs, but the playoff performance he had showed a lot of people what type of player Paolo is, and he's always been this. He was this in high school. If you look at his high school clips, he was that. If you look at his clips at Duke, he was that. He was an amazing player at Duke. He helped them make a run at Duke, and I think that's indicative of the player he is now. So my pick would be Paolo Banchero for Most Improved Player. And in that tune, I'm actually going to stay with the Coach of the Year, Kenny Atkinson, with the Cleveland Cavaliers. A little bit of hometown bias, but Kenny Atkinson I love as a coach. Obviously, he was an assistant with the Warriors, but he coached in Brooklyn with James Harden, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Kenny Atkinson is good with guards. I think that's the biggest thing to me about Kenny Atkinson. He had Kyrie and Harden, and look at the way they were playing. Obviously, the Nets situation didn't work out. They got hurt, COVID, Kyrie, whatever you want to say. When they were on the court, they looked great. And I think that if there is one person that I would trust to turn Darius Garland around after the season he had, the inconsistencies he had last year, it would be Kenny Atkinson. He is great with guards. Even, being an assistant with the Warriors, it's a guard-led team, obviously by Steph Curry. So you have a Donovan Mitchell who is head and shoulders the best player on the team. He's the guy. But you have a Darius who you kind of need him to be the number 2. And you also need Evan Mobley to show that he's going to be something as well. I think the Cavs have been stunted by the lack of Evan Mobley growth offensively, actually. And I think that he is a candidate for Most Improved Player. And with that, they kind of need him to make that jump. But I think that Kenny Atkinson is going to do a great job. The Cavs were terrible with pace last year, and quite honestly, their offense was stagnant. It is a stagnant offense, really relied on ball screens. Not saying J.B. Bickerstaff is a bad coach, but he did not really produce a good offensive product. And I think Kenny Atkinson, who was a great offensive mind, who is good with guards or guard-centric or a guard-led team, I think that Kenny Atkinson will lead the Cavs and help them kind of get out of that rut that they had where they could be a legitimate playoff contender, a playoff team. I don't think they're better than the Bucks, the Celtics, the Knicks, or the 76ers quite yet, but I think they could fall into that 5 to 6 range. Similarly with the Magic. And I think that Kenny Atkinson is really going to bolster this offense, and we're going to see a new, revamped, revitalized Cavs team that I think could actually be a threat with offense. Obviously, they have Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. They have two good defensive bigs. All they need is to offensively be capable, and I think Kenny Atkinson is going to fix a lot of the things that we saw last year in the playoffs come to fruition, especially against the Magic, where they were having these lower scoring playoff games because it was kind of hard to score, hard to get a good look, get a clean look. With the stagnant offense. So I think the Cavs will address that. I think Kenny Atkinson will address that. And he would be my dark horse pick for Coach of the Year. So those are some of my predictions. I thank all of you for tuning in, for watching the video. If you stayed till the end, please subscribe. Please like it up. Please share. Yeah, I love doing these videos. I love researching, love tapping into stats and stuff. So, and just talking about ball, man. Let me know if you guys have any other ideas. Like I said, I think the NBA season's coming around. I'll probably have maybe a rankings video of what I think the standings will shake out to, or power rankings of teams. Or a pyramid chart or something like that. I'll probably do something like that. But let me know if you guys have any other ideas. If there's a player you want me to talk about, a team you want me to talk about, a contract situation you want me to talk about, anything. Just let me know. But I appreciate y'all for tuning in. So I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one, man. Peace.